Good morning and welcome to Frank's School. The 47th day of the 7th year, first video, the making of Resurrection, this wordless movie. The story is resumed. I'm now going to talk about Act 2. I can't lay it right out in chronological order. Can't do that yet. I had the word spiral on there. What I meant by that is certain subjects like the water supply and Nama's relation to it. It'll have to be touched on, go to other things, and then come back and hit it again. Go to other things and come back and hit it again. Because although it's critical right at the beginning, I mean, obviously people need water. And she will immediately, at the beginning of Act 2, find a water supply of drinkable water. Immediately. But it'll eventually go to the development of, if it works as I plan, a really spectacular water wheel, or maybe a bunch of them, depending on how much time I've got. So it'll come around to that later. I'll say something about this part in a moment. Another critical thing is going to be the bread oven. I mean, people have to eat, and bread. Now, Batch will have brought some grain with him. Some grain that he can make bread, but the bread oven has to be restored. It has to be made usable. So that's real critical as well. I'm going to erase this stuff as I go because everything is so complicated. It looks so complicated up here. Now, I said San Damiano effect. What I mean by that is in Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, a very old but very wonderful movie about St. Francis. St. Francis goes out and he restores a church, and the church is all in ruins. And then he restores it. It's one of the things I worry about in that movie is that they take a church that was beautiful and destroy it for the sake of the movie and then reverse it. I hope not. I don't know. But in effect, that's what's going on. I mean, it is a destroyed village, and it then gets put back together. So anyway, I wanted to just mention that. Now, this act, as opposed to the first one, I think it should be joyous. And I think Baroque music, basically, for now, should be left aside. The whole movie doesn't have to be done in Baroque, classical, and Renaissance music. I think folk music now can really come on. It's in the public domain, and there's a lot of it, and these are tunes that people know and would recognize. So joyous, all that excitement of spring and going out and all the optimism of planting gardens. I'd like to kind of capture that. So, and captured in the music, quite different. And another thing I mentioned already, now hands more than eyes. What hands do. But I think that's going to be more Act 3 than Act 2. It's almost more what bodies can do versus eyes. That leitmotif. All right, the critical things I had just mentioned, but what also needs to be started is those shops have to be put in order. And when you first go into an area and you do that first cleaning up, a lot can be done. And right at the beginning of Act 2, there will be that sort of a reprise to Christlagen Todesbanden, where there will be these stills, probably in black and white, once again, of all these shops in complete disarray and looking completely hopeless. I've already taken those pictures. As a matter of fact, I've already begun to restore order to a lot of the stuff. The fences, for example. But anyway, they are important. The gardens are extremely important. They need to be started. In a way, this is going to seem like it's the first day, because that's what happens with literature. Time gets collapsed. The huts need to be, that would be Paul. He's the woodman, and he and Marion together would need to start to work immediately on the huts, because for the sake of the movie, there need to be, I would say, at least 9 of them built, but possibly more, but they go fast. And so that has to be done, not as critical as those other things, but it needs to be established, because there's only so much time within the movie to show these things being done and how they're done. The fences, yes, I mean, fences, the way I build fences are very easily restored. Hay, well, I thought about that, and I live in, I'm lucky in a way because the hay, I don't have to actually make hay now. My neighbor takes care of that. So I feed the hay and I have it in the barn and stuff, but I don't have to actually make it. Well, making hay is a lot of work. It's a worry every year to get enough hay made, to get it made. That would probably be the way in Act 3 for people to end up getting that feeling of exhaustion and they just can't keep up with it because the hay has to be made. So I would tend to put that over into Act 3. If a granary is found with some corn in it still, there we go. That would solve the, and it wouldn't have to only be corn. I suppose there could be wheat, barley in granaries, because this village once presumably was a thriving, working village. So the grain might still be okay if the granary was good. Malt, I mentioned that. The batch should immediately start to brew as soon as he could. One of the things he carried in could easily be malt extract, or there's kind of a dry malt. And he can start sprouting barley as well in order to make his beer, because he doesn't only love to eat, he loves to drink. Now the water wheels, one of the things that's I long planned was for Nama to take Festus by the hand and head off into the woods, and people think, whoa, what's going on there? Well, he doesn't know either, but when they get there, she shows where water can be diverted, that she's found. Water is her thing, and that water, by being diverted, makes water wheels possible. So that has to occur in Act 1 as well in order to get it started. Now by the end, I put all of this together because by the end of Act 1, I think there could be a pretty nice meal that Batch has managed to piece together. And I think the tune "We Gather Together," even though it's a Christian hymn, it could be played, one verse of it, it's in a tradition in my family that my dad always liked that when we were ready to have a meal, that was our way of saying grace. That tune could be played, and while the tune is played, portraits made. By that I mean stills, close-ups of all the characters sitting around the table, including Bingo. Done Moroccan style. By that I call it Moroccan style because that's the first I ran into it, where people have a big dish in the middle and they have bread and they dip the bread in. Everyone has their own bread. They don't really have to use knives and forks and stuff. So a Moroccan style meal with portraits. This all could happen at the same time, and after the meal, probably that would work. After the meal, what do people do in the evening? Once it gets dark, what do you do before you go to bed? Well, play cards. I've argued elsewhere that you don't have to spend a lot of money on entertainment. Playing cards, people could do that. They could be playing chess. Somebody could have a chess game. Matter of fact, the competition between Marion, the old man, and Festus, the blacksmith, in chess could always be there, or checkers. And then a private concert, a relay concert, I say, where each character would take a turn in, providing the music, starting the music. And it could go right around, and we could touch on either their original themes or new themes to develop further each one of the characters, and finally end up, and as it would start, the others could join in. Remember, they're all musicians in their own way. They have violins and a bassoon and oboe and slide whistle and the guitar. And ultimately, to the little boy, and Bingo would be his tune, and with that, Act 1 would end. Now, finally, this list, here is a list of music that I've thought of right now that pick up the joyousness of spring. As Tönen die Lieder, that's a German tune which Americans would not know, but that means the songs are sounding of spring. Spring comes back. Es klappert die Mühle, that's a children's song about a mill, a water mill. Those are German ones. The Happy Farmer is commonly known. It's also in German, but people know it in a direct translation from German would be The Merry Peasant. Country Gardens. I say see Bugs Bunny because I thought of Bugs Bunny as a case of where cartoons use classical music and they tell a story to famous classical music. I should probably look at that more. I think I've got that right, Bugs Bunny. Old MacDonald had a farm, oats, peas, beans, and barley grow. Jimmy cracked corn and I don't care. You know, there'll be a place where they get a mill going to crack corn, to grind grain, a burr mill at some point. Mares eat oats and does eat oats and little lambs eat ivy. That's a kind of funny song. Little Bo Peep has lost her sheep. Well, back inside Go Bear, Go Bear. Now this is a very, very old drinking song, maybe a 600-year-old drinking song. That could be the tune to Batch as he's brewing. If I were a carpenter and you were a lady, would you marry me anyway? Would you have my baby? A tinker, a miller. More for Act 3 here, I think. And in any case, this one is about 50 years old, a little over 50 years old. And it might not be in the public domain, so that might be a little bit more complicated to use. Well, this has been fast. Bye for now.